Easter Island. Is there anything we can learn? The remote volcanic island in Polynesia. Famed for its archaeological sites, including nearly 900 monumental statues, carved human figures with oversized heads, standing upright in a dramatic fashion. Is Easter Island a microcosm of Earth? There was unrestricted population growth and destruction of the environment with boundless confidence, leading to an ecological disaster and a population crash. Do we have to repeat this experiment on a grand scale? What did the person think who felled the last tree on the island? The last tree, the last mammoth, the last dodo, and soon perhaps the last fish and the last gorilla. On the basis of what police would call form, humans are serial killers beyond reason. Has this always been and must always be the case? Are all human systems doomed to stagger along under the mounting weight of their internal logic until it crushes them? If we look at past societies, we may find the answers. Easter Island was an isolated mini civilization in a constrained environment. How typical is it of civilizations in general? The population used every resource it had, building giant statues to the gods, not noticing that they were depriving themselves of everything they needed to stay alive. And eventually they ran out of resources, but they had 900 statues, which weren't any help. Where did they expect the help to come from? Easter Island once had 10,000 people. It was small. It didn't have a political structure. It was more like a chiefdom. However, it did have social classes and professions. The stone carvers, for one, and its achievements were in league with those of far bigger cultures. Its isolation also makes it a uniquely important microcosm of much bigger and complex systems, including the one we're on, the big island called Earth, in which we are drifting through space. Easter Island punched way above its weight, but it boxed alone and eventually knocked itself out. About 2 centuries after the Spanish invasion of Peru, a Dutch fleet in the South Seas, far to the west of Chile and below the Tropic of Capricorn, came upon a sight hardly less awesome and even more inexplicable than the megalithic buildings of the Andes. On Easter Day, 1722, the Dutchmen sighted an unknown island, so treeless and eroded that they mistook its barren hills for dunes. They were amazed as they drew near to see hundreds of stone images, some as tall as an Amsterdam house. They could not comprehend how it was possible that these people, who were devoid of heavy, thick timber or strong ropes, nevertheless have been able to erect such images which were fully 30 feet high. Captain Cook later confirmed the island's desolation, finding no food for fuel nor any fresh water worth taking on board. He described the island as tiny canoes made from scraps of driftwood stitched together like shoe leather, as the worst in the Pacific. Nature, he concluded, had been exceedingly sparing of her favours to this spot. The great mystery of Easter Island that struck all early visitors was not just that these colossal statues stood in such a tiny and remote corner of the world, but that the stones seem to have been put there without any means or tackle, almost as if they were set down from the sky. Even scientific observers could not at first account for the megaliths of Easter Island. The figures stood there mockingly, defying common sense. We now know the answer to the riddle, and it is a chilling one. Nature had not been unusually stingy with her favours. Pollen studies of the island's crater lakes have shown that it was once well watered and green, with rich volcanic soil supporting thick woods of the Chilean wine palm, a fine timber that can grow as big as an oak. No natural disaster had changed that, no eruption, drought or disease. The catastrophe on Easter Island was man. Over a period of about 5 or 6 centuries, the population of Easter Island, about 8 miles this way, 8 miles that way, that's about 64 square miles, multiplied to about 10,000. That's a lot for such a small area. They built villages with good houses on stone footings and cleared all the best land for fields. Socially, they split into clans and ranks: nobles, priests, commoners. And there may have been a paramount chief or a king. Like Polynesians on some other islands, each clan began to honour its ancestry with impressive stone images. These were hewn from the yielding volcanic tuff of a crater and set up on platforms by the shore. As time went on, the statue cult became increasingly rivalrous and extravagant, reaching its apogee during Europe's Middle Ages. Each generation of images grew bigger than the last, demanding more timber, rope, and manpower for hauling to the altars. Trees were cut faster than they could grow. By around about AD 1400, no more tree pollen is found in the annual layers of the crater lakes. The woods had been utterly destroyed. Islanders could survey their whole world at a glance. So why were steps not taken to halt the cutting, to protect the saplings, to replant? If trees became scarce, the erection of statues should have been curtailed and timber reserved for essential purposes such as boat building and roofing. But that's not what happened. The people who felled the last tree could see it was the last. They would know with complete certainty that there would never be another. And yet, they felled anyway. They had no timber to build boats, which left them no escape. So the day came when the last boat was also gone. There would be little seafood then, and no way out. They ate all the dogs and nearly all the nesting birds. There was nothing left apart from the stone giants who had devoured the land. But if only people would keep faith and honour these stone gods, there would be plenty, a return to plenty. By the end, there was more than 1,000 of these statues. Less than 1,000 population of humans. They were seduced by a kind of progress and ideological pathology. Their belief system was false, and they simply starved to death, believing that the bigger they built the stone statues, the bigger the reward. And that was not to be. Their thinking was their demise. The studies show that in the final years of the local population of Easter Island, they'd ran out of all the resources and had converted what they had into weapons to fight against each other. So not only were they chasing a false vision by building the giant statues, which were using up all the resources in a confined area, what they had left was used to be turned into weapons to fight each other, and they also turned to cannibalism. So given a free rein, they destroyed themselves by their own thinking, or lack of thinking.